Hello everyone and welcome. I am Robin Armbrecht with Really Robin Stamps and you are joining me for Papercrafting Playdate. Today is December 18th, 2021 and this is episode number 43. This is actually my very last Papercrafting Playdate for the year 2021 and since it's the end of the year I'm feeling reflective and thankful and so very grateful to each and every one of you who has watched, who has left me a comment and been so encouraging on this video tutorial I've been on. When I made my very first video last year, December 2020, and went live on Facebook, I really didn't intend to make this a regular thing. But through your encouragement and your love and appreciation, it has become something that has really given me, I think, way more than I've been able to give to you. So I am just very thankful for you. So today's video is all about thank you cards and a little bit of art therapy along the way. So let's get started. Okay. So the project that I have for you today is extremely simple for two reasons. One, I find, especially during this busy holiday season, that I need to find some things to do either before, during, or after the holidays where I can just kind of zone out and just kind of get my thoughts together, but also do something creative and kind of fill that soul desire that I have to do something creative. You're probably similar. Like, it's okay to zone out and watch TV, and I like to do that. And I like to play games, but at the same time, if I can go somewhere, listen to music, and just do a little, stamping, but nothing complicated, right? I just don't want it too complicated. So today is a project where we're going to just do basic card assembly, and then I'm going to show you how to focus on like quick and easy thank you cards. And hopefully throughout the process, you're going to feel like you can get some things done, but yet also just make yourself feel good, right? So before I forget, this is the last few days that you can use December's host code, which is this sequence right here. And in December, for a $45 online order, or you can contact me directly, you are going to get a card kit with this brand new celebration paper that you can't even purchase. You're going to get not only these four 4x6 sheets, but you're going to get the card bases and all the punches and the embellishments and the flower pieces to make these 4 quick, great cards. It's a really fun little card kit. So that's for $45. And then if you wanted to spend more than that and spend another $50, you're going to get these great holiday rhinestone jewels for free. So that is for December 2021. So let's get started with our supplies. So for this project, it's going to make 4 cards. So my card bases are going to be Bashful Blue, and then you're going to need a half sheet of a coordinating color, and then you're going to need a neutral color cut. You can start with a half sheet, but mine is actually cut 5x8. All right, so let's set these aside. And we're going to start with this base, and here's where our art therapy comes in. I encourage you, when you want to just kind of stamp and not think about things, to just get out some plain paper and get out some colors and get out any stamp set, really, just any kind of images that you have that coordinate together. They don't even really have to coordinate together. The purpose of this art therapy is to just play with ink and to create backgrounds. So I'm going to think ahead and think about some thank you notes, and I'm going to use this Snowflake Wishes stamp set because I really just want to focus on some winter thank yous. So I'm going to pull out 3 different snowflakes, And when you're doing a background, you want to at least pick 3 images that are different sizes. So you want one that's large, medium, and small. So here are the snowflake images I've chosen. And then I also have a background, just kind of a really light kind of dainty background. And then I have some words, because putting a script onto your stamping always looks really fabulous. So I'm going to use the Thanks Snow Much that comes in this stamp set. So we're not going to use dies. We're just going to do basic stamping. And I'm going to use these colors with my images. I'm going to use Real Red and Pear Pizzazz, which are great Christmas colors, right? But we're going to transition from holidays into winter. We're going to add some blue. And this also brings me to my red, green, blue theory, right? You've heard me maybe talk about this before, but when you're just looking for a color combination, you don't know what to choose, look at what your choices are with your either your ink pads or your markers or your pastels. Just pick a red, a green, and a blue. And red could be orange or pink, right? Something that is in those tones, and then any green and any blue. And you'll find you can come up with some really great combinations when you focus on that. So that's kind of how I came together with this. So you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, I'm going to stamp my snowflakes in red and green, but this totally works. When you're making a background with your 3 sizes of images, you always start with the largest size, because the largest size determines the pattern. It's really impossible to start with a smaller image and then leave space for your larger image. So you want to start with the smallest one. So I'm going to start with the largest snowflake and stamp it in red, and I'm going to stamp it, and I'm just going to go across my paper and make a background. So I'm going to start over here and just stamp it off so it comes off the paper a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to really set the distance for this image by stamping it just a couple inches away. And of course, this depends on how big your images are. Now that you've got 2 there, you have to make a triangle. So here I've got 1, 2, the other one has to go here. Okay, so I'm going to ink my stamp again. 1, 2, the other one has to go here. And by going off the edge, you make it look like you've got a continuous pattern. 1, 2, the other one has to go here. 1, 2, that one has to go there. 1, 2, right there. So we just have a little tiny piece sticking out. 1, 2, right here. Okay, see how that works? And now these are all evenly spaced, but they're random. They're not just in a line, they're more random. Let's see, do we need one here? We might need one like that. Okay, so then you go in with your next largest image, and you're going to stamp in between. Now you don't have to worry about the triangle. You only have to do that first, because here you're just kind of filling in those spaces that you created initially. So I'm just going to go in and fill and make sure there's a little bit of green everywhere around. I think we need one more right there. Okay. Then we're going to go in with our 3rd size, which is balmy blue. I think I called this bashful blue, didn't I? There used to be a bashful blue, but now it's balmy blue. It's our light blue. And we're going to stamp in all the little holes that are left over. Like that. Aren't those colors pretty together? I love that. And we'll just go off the edges here where we see little spaces. So I can kind of see they're very random around here, and that looks really good. So now what I want to do is I want to just use this tiny, tiny background stamp, and I really just want to fill in any little extra white space. But before I do that, I'm going to take the greeting and we're going to create our greeting. And we're going to just create it as a background. All right, so I want it to just blend in like it's part of my background paper. So I'm going to take black. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this another way. Before we do this, we're going to do our blending. Okay, so this is really where the therapy part comes in. So I'm going to take blending brushes and we're going to add extra ink of the same color right over where we stamped first. And you can do this if you don't have the blending brushes, don't worry, just use some kind of soft sponge. Or if you have the finger daubers, you can use those too. And you're going to take the same color ink. So I'm going to take red here. And I'm just going to really lightly color over. It's really not even coloring. It's just rubbing the ink, burnishing that color into the cardstock right around that same image that is stamped in that color. And this is the part where you just want to be listening to some music and seeing and looking at how pretty all of these colors are together, right? I'm telling you, it'll make you feel better. If you're grouchy, do some burnishing. Okay, so now I've just kind of rubbed that red ink right into the cardstock real softly right over where I stamped the red snowflake. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the green. This is Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to go right over the Pear Pizzazz snowflakes. I love this color combination because it's like, it's just a little bit holiday-ish, but brings in that blue, which makes it just a little bit brighter. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing now with the balmy blue. Okay, and you can make this as dark as you want. Of course, you don't have to start with a half of a sheet. You could do a whole sheet. That would even be better, but I want to make this video not super long, so I'm just going to show you the half sheet version. Okay, so now that we've burnished that color, now we're going to go in with the greeting, and I'm just going to go diagonally across this paper just to create a pattern with it. You don't have to do that. You could very easily stamp this randomly as well. So I'm going to go in between. See how I went off? Just going to go in between those two. And then we'll finish up here. Just going to look for the hole where the other two greetings below it make, and that's where I know to put the greeting. So when we're done, this is going to look like a complete background. Okay, let me close that up. So then what I was going to say, I was just out of order here. What's left, if you've got a tiny little background stamp, is you can kind of just fill in some of those holes if you want to with a little bit more background. If you want it to look lighter, stamp it off once first, and then you've just got this lighter version, which I think I like that a lot. That looks really pretty. And you just kind of have created your own background paper, right? Now, do you have to make this into a card? No. Keep doing this art therapy until you feel better, right? And you know, someday you'll use it and you can cut it up and use it, but just keep applying the ink and burnishing the color until you feel better. But we are going to make and turn it into a card. So this is where my pattern comes in. So let's bring back these pieces, okay? So I said you needed 2 full sheets to make 4 cards. So I'm turning those 2 full sheets here, cutting them in half and folding them. And that's going to turn into 4 card bases. So I've got my balmy blue card bases. And then this half sheet is the real red. And this piece of basic white has been trimmed a 1/2 inch on each side so that when I cut him, I'm going to cut this very similar to how I'm going to cut this, and we're going to have a mat. So here's the pattern for my 5 by 8 inch piece. I'm going to cut 4 pieces, so I'm just going to cut it exactly in half. So because I trimmed off that 1/2 inch, we're going to cut this at 2.5 and we're going to cut this at 4. So let's do that. So this piece is 5 by 8. So to cut it into 4ths, we're going to cut it at 2.5 by 4. So now I have 4 pieces to use on 4 cards. And we're going to do the same thing with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece. That's what I have here. That's going to create the pieces that I'm going to mount these on. So this piece in half is 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. Okay. So from 1 full sheet of cardstock, let's say you wanted to make more than 4, you can get 8 cards. So this is a great size. I love this template for beginning stampers because it's a very easy way to put together a very pleasing, easy to cut card. And I still use this. I still use this size all the time. It's just, it uses up all your cardstock. You don't really waste a whole lot. So these mount perfectly onto the red. And then look how they just frame, how they allow the card base to frame your little focal point here. Okay, so boom, you've got your art therapy. You can mount it very easily onto a coordinating color of cardstock and put them on your card bases, right? So if you don't want to keep it this simple, right? You want to just step it up a little bit and you want to make it a little extra special. One of the things that you know I love to do is to put these pieces into an embossing folder to make it just a little bit more interesting, okay? So let's use the wintry 3D folder with the more snowflakes on it. So you would put each piece in there, run it through your cut and emboss machine. And let me show you what you get when you're done. You would get some nice, pretty embossing on those pieces. And it adds texture and it just makes it just a little bit more interesting. So now we're going to just plop these cards together. But before we do that, we're going to use our background stamp one more time with the blue. And we're going to just stamp it 3 times. So if this is going to be what's on your card, you just want your focal point to peek out, I'm sorry, the background to peek out from your focal point like in 3 spots. So just like a rectangle, pick 3 sides, make sure your image goes off of the card. So you can do that, and then pick one over here and one at the top. You've got kind of a triangle there, and that's where your card would go. This is just a super easy, no think kind of formula for creating some super cute, easy cards, right? It's going to give you kind of a stress-free crafting experience, and just follow this simple pattern, right? This is also great for giving as gifts. So let's say you have anybody who has had something, you know, eventful or special happening to them, or even something that requires, you know, people to come in service, or you know, to help somebody in need. So let's say there has been a baby born, or someone has been in the hospital, or someone has passed away, or you have somebody who has, you know, retired. Anytime there's been an event where somebody is going to be the recipient of either lots of gifts or maybe acts of service, this is a great thing that you can do. It provides you with art therapy, but then it also allows you to make thank you cards to give to that person, because they will be in need of ways to quickly send their thanks once they're feeling better or they're past the event and they want to say thank you for the gifts and the acts of service. Boom, you can give them a little packet of thank you notes, and then they can just send those, and it'll be a great little gift. I love to give cards in those circumstances. All right, so I'm going to just put that centered in the middle, and then all you really need is just a little tiny greeting. And so I brought in some little die cuts that I made, but you could just simply punch something, and then we'll stamp our greeting one more time. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to put it on a snowflake, just because we've got these cute little snowflakes and they're just precious. So let's see, I want the shiny side. So we'll stick that on there and pop up our greeting like that. So you would just put those together very easily. You can add a little ribbon if you want to kind of, you know, make it a little more sparkly or a little bit more happy. Just add a little bit of ribbon. Okay, so let me show you another finished version of these so you can get an idea. So this one, I did my thanks so much in a different direction. So when I cut them exactly the same, but they're going to be landscape cards instead of portrait cards. And so here I just used a little tag. What do you think? Pretty easy, right? With lots of opportunities to be able to step it up, add extra embellishments if you feel like it's too simple. Okay, let me close up these colors here. I have some more to show you. So let's just review. 2 pieces of colored cardstock for the card bases. And then you're going to need a half sheet of a coordinating color. And then you're going to need a 5x8 piece of a neutral. And that's how you're going to put together 4 cards with this design. Okay, let me pull these out and I'll show you a completely different version. So for my art therapy on this one, I used the squares. I used these two squares on the watercolor shapes, and then I used these two thanks for my words, for the thank you notes. And then used some purples and came up with these. Very simple. But it was very fun, right? This is like your therapeutic. Okay, so there's another version. Now, let me show you. So this is one way to cut this 5x8 piece. So another way is to cut it in half. So you would be cutting it in half again, but instead of cutting this piece in half this way, you're going to cut it diagonal in one of the directions. And when you do that, then you get some fun triangles to put on the front of your card. So I thought I would make some thank you cards with this stamp set to use a couple snowmen and this winter stamp from Well Defined, and came up with these thank yous. Super easy. I used the exact same color combination as I did in the first card. I embossed with the textured embossing folder, but did exactly the same thing. So even using the same colors, but stamps that are a little bit, have a little bit more detail to them, still completely works. And look how pretty that color combination is with the red card bases. I love it. Looks good on blue, looks good on red, and you bet it would look also good on that pear pizzazz. Okay, so I can hear some of you thinking, and I hear you saying, "That's great, Robin, but I only have a black ink pad, or I only have one color of cardstock." Well, let's just go there, right? Let's just see what we can do with what we have, because there's no fun going into your craft room and feeling like, well, I can't have any fun because I don't have this or I don't have that, right? So I'm gonna, instead of white, I'm gonna use a piece of Pool Party. So any color. This is going to be my card bases are going to be Pool Party. And then my accent color is going to be black. Okay. Or it could be white, either way. So let's just pretend that all you have is a black ink pad. And so I'm going to use this stamp set. It's just kind of a, I'm going to say generic in the way that it has some solid images and has some detailed images. There's pieces of different size. So you could literally throw in any other stamp set, right, that you would have that would be similar to this. And then there's this great thank you set that is in the annual catalog. So I'm going to use the thanks for this. So let's just use black. Let's pull in some of these images. Let's do the solid leaf. Okay, so I'm going to put the solid leaves together on one stamp. Let's do this right here. And then we'll put the flowers, those detailed flowers and the detailed bird on one, and then we'll do this little leaf. We'll see if we have room for it on here. So let's make a background with just black ink. So we're going to start with the largest image, which these two are very similar. So this one is longer, though. I think I'll start with this flower. And we're just going to start in the same spot down here. And then I'm going to rope, because this is different than a snowflake, where a snowflake kind of looks the same almost every time you stamp it, whether you know, when you turn it. This image does not. So not only am I going to space my triangles, but I'm going to turn the image each time, a quarter of a turn or so, just to make sure that it's going in a different direction. So 1, 2 goes here. So let's do that way. So it's a little bit different. 1, 2, we need one here. 2, we need one here. Going off the edge like that. Okay. Then we'll take the next largest image and we'll stamp that in between. See how I'm just turning it each time and stamping it off? Makes it really easy. Let's do the flower side. Okay, and then we've got our solid leaves here, so we'll put those in as well. Looks like I have room for some of that third image, so I'll just leave a couple little spots here. And then we'll take this little leaf branch and we'll add that wherever there's room. Okay, see how that creates just a beautiful little background with just a black ink pad. So let's say maybe you have also the same color ink as your ink pad. So let's say you had the pool party ink to go with the pool party cardstock that you have. You could also create just a little background. So instead of making the words black, I'm just going to stamp them in the same tone. Same kind of diagonal pattern I'm using here. But you wouldn't have to. Again, you could switch this all around so that it was going in different directions. Okay, I'm cleaning off my stamps and then I'm going to show you what the finished card looks like. So I took this, I cut it exactly as the same way as I did the very first cards that I showed you. Mounted it on black cardstock and then stamped the 3 little backgrounds for the card base before I put that down. I did run them through an embossing folder. This is the new gingham one that's coming out in January. So cute. And just add a very simple hello. So these are quick little thank you note cards to use, but let's go ahead and cut our cardstock in a slightly different way. All right, so here's another option. So here's my piece here. So instead of doing any horizontal cuts here, we're just going to cut long strips to go down the front of the card. So let's see, I have to trim this. No, I don't have to trim it. So here's what we're going to do is just cut this into about 2-inch strips. If you want it to have a nice border, a nice big border, then you want to do a 1 7/8. But 2 inches works really well too. So we'll just cut these like this. And have this little piece left over. And then we need to cut our coordinating cardstock into equal fourths, which is 2 1/8. All right, so these are all 5.5 inches long. These are 2 1/8. These are 1 7/8. And so they will go across a card front and you'll have this beautiful little border. So let's put one together so you can see the difference. So here's my card base. And we need to put just a little background on here. So let's take this flower and we'll go 1, 2, 3. And then we'll attach these together. This stamping is so easy and basic with the sizes and the, process of applying the ink to paper that really it's a great project for doing while you're watching TV. Let's say you wanted to just really chill out, but you like to not feel like you're wasting time watching TV sometimes. So you plan projects to do in front of the TV. This is so easy. You can cut all these pieces ahead of time and sit and stamp and color and then assemble some nice, cute, easy cards. So this would be another way to cut that half sheet of cardstock so that you can put it on, a card front and have it just look a little bit different. So this one's going to say thanks. And so I just used one of the leftover strips that I had cut off of other pieces when I was creating these half sheets to decorate. And we'll pop it up and stick it on the card. Now this could also be a portrait card or a landscape card. You could do it either way. Actually, that looks kind of cute. I might change my mind and do it this way. So there's so many ways to vary it. And then we would add some little embellishment of some kind. See how I've got this gingham ribbon to just go on everything? It is truly my very favorite ribbon right now. I'm so glad that we get to still play with it. All right, so I'm not going to put together these right now, but I've got 3 more cards to put together. And so this is just a variation of what you can do with that stamped piece of paper. Of course, I didn't emboss this one, so you can see the difference in what the embossing brings to your piece. It really kind of sets it apart, right? And again, here is the difference in these 2 patterns, just based on how you want to cut them. So this tells you the piece that the black that I mounted that on, what that piece size is. This is the size of the piece that you decorate, which was Pool Party. And then here's how you cut them. All these directions will be on my blog post that accompanies this video. So you can find directions to download there. So let's check out some of the same design using the Christmas season stamp set. There it is. So I just used 1 pine cone and 1 little sprig and the berries to create that background, and then I ran it through the pine embossing folder. Okay, now one last thing to show you. Let's go back to our red, green, blue theory. Okay, but we're going to use this stamp set. So let's find some blocks here to use. So the red, green, blue works, like I said, with any red, any green, any blue. So let's bring back Pool Party because that's a fun blue. Let's do this really light and pastel. So we're going to use soft seafoam for the green. And then for the red, I'm going to use Blushing Bride for my red color, which is pink. And let's do the same thing. Let's start with our beautiful flower. And I'm going to turn it every time I stamp and make that triangle. You can turn your paper too if you don't want to turn your stamp. That works. All right, so I've got that covered. And now we'll use our next biggest one, which is one of these two stamps right here. So let's use this one, and we'll use the green. I know this doesn't look like much, but you know, I could do this all day, really. This never gets old for me. It's just very satisfying to make backgrounds, and especially to do that burnishing. So let's take a smaller image. So we'll take this one here, and that's what we'll do in the blue color. And in our Pool Party, we're just gonna do that all over where there's the white spaces left over. You see how I'm just turning that image every time, so it's gonna be going in different directions. Or you can turn your paper. That one I didn't get all the way. Okay, nice and pastel, right? So let's do our burnishing. This is the therapeutic part where you want to just take your time and add that color. I'm doing it fast, but the more pressure you apply, and again, you can do the same thing with a sponge. If you don't have those brushes, just use a sponge. Once you have the brushes though, you'll never want to not use the brushes because they're amazing. Okay, you get the picture, right? And our blue. Fill in all those little holes with the Pool Party. And you can just keep adding that color until your white paper is all filled up. And for my greeting, I'm going to use this dear friend. Actually, let's use the hello there. And then we'll use a slightly darker color, but not black. We'll use gray granite. And we'll just add those. Now see, I'm going too fast, but this is going to be a background, so even though I made that little mess there, that's fine. It'll be fine. When you put your card together, you can hide it with your greeting, or it won't even be noticeable because it's a background. So here's another way to print, to cut if you want it to go all the way across the card. you can, instead of trimming this piece to 5 by 8, you can leave the 8.5 and just trim it a little bit on the length, and then you cut it this way. And what that's going to give you is a piece that will fit all the way across this way. So it's similar to doing this version where you have that strip that goes all the way across, but this is going to go all the way across the narrow part of the card front. And these are embossed with the type, now I completely blanked on what the name of that was, Time Worn type embossing folder. And we add some embellishments on there. Here's our 3 stamps. So it's just a simple formula that you can use to when you're putting your easy, simple cards together for some therapy. What do you think? Was that good? Was that therapeutic? I hope I've given you an idea for a project that you can get started on whenever you have some free time over the holidays. And think of some fun ways to just make your own background paper, give yourself a little bit of therapy time, but also turn out a bunch of cards, right? Who doesn't want to have a stash of thank you cards ready to go? And you can do this at any time, obviously. They don't have to be thank you cards, but just kind of giving you an idea of what you might be looking for once the holidays are over. Again, let me just say I am so thankful and grateful to you, my viewers, the customers that have ordered from me, for my friends. Your cheerleading for me has just meant the world to me, and I really, really appreciate it so very much. And I cannot wait to think and dream about what we're going to do in 2022 on Papercrafting Playdate. But my heart is full. I wish you happy holidays, and I will see you next year. Thank you so much. Bye.